Today is May 1st, 2020. I'm going to do a quick Hobbit Garden review. Let me give you my take on this pandemic again. It looks like well, of course, the hydroxychloroquine is doing fantastic. One thing you will note is that hydroxychloroquine is very, very, very inexpensive. It doesn't cost much. So people have been pointing out that other drugs are very expensive, and a lot of the people that are attacking hydroxychloroquine, even though it's been around since 1955 and has been proven totally safe, there has been no deaths associated with it in terms of heart conditions, even though now they're trying to say it's very, the heart the heart could be an issue. But actually, historically, there hasn't been that situation. There's no known deaths because of, the speeding up of the heart. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm saying the data is, it's safe. And even Q posted some documents a couple of days ago pointing out, that they had done a study just in 2005 on how it's helping on SARS, and of course this CCP virus business is a SARS virus. So anyway, the data's out there that it helps. So that's good to know. The other thing I wanted to point out is that India has treated at least 15,000. They had 20,000 doses or treatments ready for in Mumbai, India. There was a slum area where it looked like the pandemic was starting to break out a little bit. So they went ahead and treated the whole slum with hydroxychloroquine. So anyway, the data is out there and the proof is in the pudding. When people actually use it, people don't get worse, and there's a lot of miraculous people getting well, very rapidly after taking it. So, and of course the hydroxychloroquine, as I've explained before, it's a bridge. It helps the zinc get into the cell. It's a gap. It opens the door so zinc can come into the cell, and the zinc is what inactivates the RNA virus strand. The virus is not alive. So when you see people are post saying that hydroxychloroquine does not kill the virus, well, of course it doesn't kill the virus. The virus is already dead. Okay? So yeah, it's a truish statement, but then actually nothing kills the virus. What happens, either the virus gets destroyed or it gets inactivated. Okay? So don't fall for this misinformation. Don't fall for that tripe. Okay, so there's my preaching on hydroxychloroquine. I think I covered. Oh, the other point is that 40% of our CCP virus deaths are in two states, New Jersey and New York. And combined, that is only 8.8% of our population. So something in those two states has gone terribly wrong. If you would project out the death tolls from New York and New Jersey nationwide, we would be up around 300,000 deaths instead of, I think we're about 64,000 deaths right now, which is crazy. It's terrible. That has the whole nation in lockdown and a lot of people in quarantine. But you will remember that in those two states, at least in New York, there were governmental orders not to use hydroxychloroquine in the first part. And I have to think that if we would have treated all of New York City with hydroxychloroquine like India's doing with that slum, it would be over. The virus would be knocked out because it would have been taken care of right then, right there. So I've always advocated something like that. Of course, you have to, you know, the doctors have to be involved. But anyway, it's a safe drug. There's my speech. Okay, love you guys. Now, here, this is what's happening in the garden. I'm very excited on this May 1st, just how things are progressing. My back is doing great. I mean, well, better. There. It's not 100%, but I'm moving. I'm able to mow the grass. I've been doing a lot of yard work this week and a lot of planting of plants. So that's good news. Here, let's go over the greenhouse and let me show you what's happening in here, and then we'll walk through things. Okay, it may not look like it, but I've actually planted out quite a few things and given away a few things too. A number of my tomato plants I've given away this week. I finally tracked down the mailman. I had promised him 2 of my plants, and I actually had to walk about a quarter of a mile to catch up with him. He was way down the street, but there was a building down there where he goes inside and delivers mail, I guess, door to door. So I was able to walk down there and give him his 2 tomato plants. So anyway, I promised him those. And so peppers, now you can see I have planted out some of my peppers. And I saw one of my friends posted that the ground temperatures has reached 60 degrees at his place. I checked online, and it is at least 55 degrees, and that makes a big difference. Now here, a big difference when the temperature of the ground gets, at 60. Here's some work I need to do. These are all different peppers. I mean, I guess I really like those peppers I was eating. But I planted them and planted them again, and I've been giving away peppers. So you guys can look up here. What are these? I think these are watermelon, mostly in here. And, oh no, let me show you this. Oh, can I show you this? Oh, I hate to do this. This is on I just set it down. These here, I've been waiting to plant these out. I bought these cells. These are called melons, early silver lime. I have like 4, well, I see 3 of them in here. So I'm very excited to see how these melons do. I've been waiting. I mean, they're starting to get bigger. I don't have to be in a hurry, but I'm waiting to see when things get warm enough. So early silver lime. I've never had these before. They're little melons. If you guys have ever eaten them, if you would put a note, they're called early silver lime, and they're melons. So that was something I saw there. And what's in here? I think these are, let's take a closer look. Okay, these are some watermelons in there. Now what's crazy is these watermelons seem to be stunted. I haven't seen them getting bigger really that much. So I don't know if they're going to do. And then there are some of the peppers I was talking about. Those are orange and yellow peppers. Just seeds that I was eating some peppers, sweet peppers, and I just collected the seed and planted it. Okay, well, and you can see things are getting thinner in here. Now these are mostly watermelon. I have planted out all of my squash, pretty much. Maybe might be a couple of squash in here. I think I saw one the other day, but not many. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to plant some more flowers. You see these marigolds? I've given a couple away. I enjoy giving away the marigold flowers and things. And they're supposed to be real good for the garden. Here, let's go real quick. So, this is, collards. I need to plant it out somewhere, or it's going to die on me. But this little thing of collards, I I started them, but they've been languishing. Now, I still haven't planted anything in here. I did find that most of the things in here were weeds, except that should be lavender. But that other plant that I thought was lavender was a weed. So that happens to me. Now, I want to point this out to you. I have some of the most busybody squirrels in the neighborhood. Can you see that? That's a walnut tree. They dig and they plant walnuts all through my garden. You know, if I didn't dig up the walnut trees that they're planting, I'd have a walnut grove in my garden within, you know, just a few years. Every year, about 20 walnuts I dig out. That's going to be about 6 or 7 already when I dig this one out. But they plant them everywhere. In fact, I had a walnut tree in this bucket, and they plant them all through the garden. So, if you guys remember last week, I had all these little corn in this nursery area here. I was starting little corns. Now, if you're going to do that, you have to dig them up and replant them when they're pretty young. You don't want to, because the taproot of the corn will go deep. So, you know, if you're going to do that, you need to dig them up when they're, you know, just a few inches tall. You can see, again, the garlic is doing great. But here, let me show you where I planted most of them. Right here. So, I planted them pretty close together. They're about 6 to 9 inches apart. And I think I have 10 rows of corn here. And, of course, at the end, that's garlic. There's 3 garlics in there I didn't move. But I planted the corn right here. And we'll see how it takes off. And then here, I planted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 rows of okra. So I've got okra planted right here. We'll see if it sprouts up. Of course, okra likes hot weather, so that was done. So this bed is now full of stuff. Corn, okra, cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and 1 cabbage, and then potatoes and kale at the end. So that's this bed. And of course the peas are coming on slowly. And then over here, you see this stick I put down as a divide, but I went ahead and planted 3 rows of okra here too, because I love okra. It's really, you know, come August or the end of July, it'll be real tall and producing like just bountiful. And okra is fantastic, you know, if you like it, and I like it. So there's still, I have that section not planted, and then of course behind here in the shade, that's not planted. So there are 2 sections of this garden, and then, well, that's kind of planted. So I have at least 2 sections, and then I have a number of, this is not planted. That, I think that's 35-gallon container. And of course that is planted, and the potatoes are starting to pop through. And I've been real happy with how this is, I've been able to put the wood chips on top of the potatoes, and they, you know, they pop through slowly. But this one's a bit slower than in the ground over there. Okay, now tomatoes, they're alive. I do have a little tomato there. Can you see it? And a tomato there. They don't look so bad, so good, I mean. But we'll see. So now that the ground temperature's up, my tomato plants should start to really thrive. Now I did replace this tomato plant just yesterday. It was the one that was there just looked sick. So anyway, so that's kind of what's happening with my tomatoes. I think the cold, dangerous weather's over, and now the warmer weather has taken off. And of course this bed, onions and some garlic. And you can see the young onions are starting to put on a little bit of bulk, which is great. And then the rutabagas. And I've already talked about the cauliflower and the Brussels sprouts and the cabbage. And I did plant out, that's a basil plant I planted in there. I needed to do something with it. Now, you can see that the mustard greens are starting to grow up in my garlic patch here. Now, mustard's pretty nice, but still, I have to consider what to do. And you can see that mustard plant I've been harvesting. Now, one thing about mustard I've noticed is that on these bigger leaves, like here, let's look at this. You see this right here? That thickness? To me, that has the thickness of celery. So, when you have some recipe that needs celery, I think I've been using that part of the mustard leaf as celery. Of course, I don't have that many celery recipes, but there's a thought for you, is that if you have trouble growing celery, you can grow mustard and use the thick part of the leaves as the celery. So, and I bet you I could even use this stem. You know, that's edible. Yeah, that would have the consistency of celery too. So, if I needed to make, say, stuffing or something, I could just cut that whole plant. And I may not use the leaf part, but the thick parts would be kind of like celery. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. You can see how these potatoes have really done well this year for me. They're way out of the buckets now. That one's kind of struggling, doesn't look so happy. But those potatoes are awesome. And the kale, I've been giving away some kale this week to if people come over and visit. And those little potatoes have taken off, and the peas. Now, the pole beans have popped, at least a number of them have. I'm also thinking about going back through and planting more pole beans where they didn't come up. So, because I'm not totally, like here, look at this row. I don't see any pole beans popping. On the other side, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe the cold took out the pole beans. So I'm going to replant this. And on this side, just a couple of the pole beans came up. So anyway, that's one of the projects I need to do. I've just been thinking about that. You try and you try again. Here, let's see if we can get this open there. So the cilantro, it looks pretty, doesn't it? Makes a good picture. And that lettuce. And here's another lettuce I transplanted. I'm using my soda 2 liters, since that's like the tallest thing I have, for trees. This is a cherry tree that I just dug up maybe yesterday. This apple looks like it may not make it. Another apple. But the peaches, now the peaches came from seeds, but the apple trees were from a root I dug out. So they might come back. But look, what I've done, can you see that? Or is that the sun blocking that? I have punched holes in the bottom with a hot screwdriver. And so I've made that into a pot. And since the tree roots are so deep to me, and I had some of these around, that I just made them into pots. Okay, and look how tall this. Now, that's over a foot, 18 inches tall, some of these potatoes. So these guys have really, of course, these get the most sun. This out here near the street gets both the morning sun and the evening sun. I've got trees on both sides of my yard. So maybe that's the difference, but they really like this. I'm just amazed. And I did come in here and plant corn. We'll see if it pops up. It needs to pop up quick, or it's going to be covered over by those potatoes. And I actually planted some corn in there, but I don't know if it's going to make it through. Now, these butternut squash, at least a few of them seem to be, I think now with the temperature of the soil getting warmer, these guys will take off, Lord willing. You can see how they're starting to look healthier. Tomatoes. Now, I've had a couple people tell me that grapevines often will not produce until a few years in. So I've been encouraged on my 2 grapevines that maybe they're going to be grapes and not just wild vines. So, that one doesn't look so good. Anyway, that yellow squash, I'm not sure which one that is. It might be a zucchini, might be another yellow squash, but that one's beat up. Cucumber struggling. Nasturtium's still alive, but he doesn't seem to be doing much. But look at that summer squash. That's a yellow squash, and that's a zucchini. So I'm going to have a yellow and a green squash, and pretty quick. Now I have come out and sprayed these guys with soap. If you take 3 ounces of soap and put it in a gallon of water in a spray thing, that's supposed to kill the squash bugs and things. And so I sprayed them, but I didn't see any squash bugs. What happens when you spray it, they'll start climbing the plant. And when I sprayed, I didn't see any bugs start climbing. So maybe it's still too early for the squash bugs. But this is the first year I've done that early in the year. Usually they've already started to kill my plants before I spray them, and it's too late. The squash bugs are too infested. So here the onions are coming on. It looks like these cucumbers will make it out here. Look at that. They're still within my little milk carton, but it's kind of protecting it, I guess. And these other cucumbers are starting to get a little bit longer. They're not taking off, but they're not dead. So Lord bless them. Now I did come in and actually plant cucumber seeds into the ground all through here. So we'll see if those sprout. But if they sprout, I might even have a jungle of cucumbers. But you can see the onions put it on a little bulk. Now I did come out here and plant a nasturtium. And look at that. One of my flowers was blooming in the greenhouse. I came out and planted it. So, and of course, this borage has been, isn't that beautiful? So that borage has been in flower. Okay, that's the front. So here we are in the backyard. I wanted you to see the progress. I went ahead and planted out some of my peppers. You can see they were getting, in fact, you can see the pepper on the plant. They were getting stunted in the greenhouse. And then I had all those other little peppers coming on that I thought, well, even if I have trouble, I've got other peppers. So looky here. So I planted out all of these. And then here, I had a number of peppers I wanted to get out. So they were looking sad. So these 5 here, I just planted all together. Now, I ended up planting cucumber seeds all around the edge of this because I ran out of sprouted cucumbers. So we'll see. So on both sides of the fencing, I've got cucumber seeds, and we'll see what happens here. And then of course I had planted out some cucumbers. They seem to all be living. Well, one of them. It looks like one of them is dying on me. You see that one right there? That one in there doesn't look so good. Maybe he'll spring back. I came out and planted some marigolds. And so, when these cucumbers take off, now that the ground is getting a little bit warmer, we might start to see these cucumbers really take off. So it's going to be fun to see it take over this arch. Now these cucumbers on this end, I even got a, look at that, there's a flower. Can you see that? That cucumber is starting. So it'll be fun to see how these guys take over. Now this chocolate mint, a lot of that's ready to harvest. You can see I should top it. That should help. You can see the grass. I have mowed a little bit back here, but about a week ago, and you can see I need to mow it again. And I didn't mow the whole back. It was too much for me. But there for a while I was kind of slow. Now look, I did. This is one of the big projects that I got done this week. I prepared the beds. These two beds got prepared. And I put some leaves on it and then wood chips on top. And then I brought in my arch. Can you see that arch? Does it show up good? And I just have some metal. These are actually for concrete work, but some metal spikes that I, just knocked into the ground to hold it in place. And then it was kind of flimsy, so I added this piece of this limb to kind of stiffen it on both sides a little bit. So again, I have the two metal spikes and then a branch that I knocked into the ground. So in a week, or maybe this week, I'll plant the watermelon out. I've just been waiting for the ground to get warmer. And in fact, it would be good if I could wait another week, I think. So these two beds are ready to go. The oregano's over there. Now I do have some mushrooms that I noticed yesterday, and now they got a little bit bigger. You see those mushrooms? So I've got a number, and look, you can see all the seeds from the, what type of tree is that? Maple? Is it a maple tree? Well, anyway, the helicopters seeds all over the place. You can see thousands, hundreds, thousands. But I do have some mushrooms here, and then some coming up right there, and then some mushrooms over there. So what I want to do, so this is the second crop of mushrooms in this area. So what a blessing. And it looks like I should wait a day. Maybe these two I can pick. But I've noticed that these mushrooms keep. They don't go, I mean, they keep in the fridge for a week or two. I mean, they're a nice mushroom for eating and for, I must have taken some mushrooms I got from the store, and when I washed the mushrooms, I must have brought the spore laid in water and thrown it in here. I'm pretty sure that's what I did, because that's how you can get mushrooms, is when you wash your mushrooms and you take that water, if you save it and throw it in an area of your garden, and if it's conducive for growing mushrooms, they may come up next year. So there's your, if you want mushrooms, any mushrooms you find and you like them, just do that with because every mushroom has thousands and thousands of spores on the bottom, and when you wash them, you get all the spores, and you can seed an area. Okay, so that's the mushrooms. You can see how tall. Now look, this area, notice how there's no branches, really? But you can see I haven't mowed. I was out here yesterday and chipped all of these branches in this area, which was quite a bit. It took a few hours to do. And then later on, I finally got my lawnmower out. Can you see? I made a beeline all the way to the back. And you can see how tall the grass is. But in the very, very back, the grass was, extra tall. And so I came back here and mowed it. And Lord willing, I'll mow the rest of this today or tomorrow. We'll see. But it's early in the morning, so there's time to do a lot of stuff today. But I wanted to do this update. And the chips, and I brought back my mulcher, and some of these leaves I mulched, and I have put right here. So I've started in, oh, look, I cut my hair. The deer are really bad, and I saw in a movie that if you put human hair down around, that the deer will stay away from that area. So this is from cutting my hair. You can see the hair there. But anyway, the zucchini, oh, you guys didn't know this, but I planted out zucchini and yellow squash and butternut squash back here. You can see on that side how they're coming up. But yesterday, I was working on this side, mulching and trying to keep the grass from coming back because, you know, the grass is, you see how the grass is coming back from when I tilled. Now, normally I would love to put down some cardboard and done it right. And, anyway. But the thought was that the squash itself, once it starts spreading out, would keep the grass down because the squash leaves will block the sun. And when my new garden comes up of all those corn seeds in that nursery area, when that pops up, I'm going to put the corn in here, Lord willing. So I'll have a lot of corn all in this area. And now you can see in the morning, we've got the morning sun on some of this area. But look, it's already being blocked. Now that's my beautiful cherry tree. And that produced really awesome last year. Oh, look, there are cherries on it. Can you see that? So there's cherries starting. God bless this tree. But I've noticed, look, I had some dead branches on my tree that I cut off. And it looks like there may be another branch. I was wanting to see if this would come to life. But it looks like that's another dead branch. So now since I've now got a dog I'm watching after, I kind of pulled this over a bit to keep the dog in the yard. But we'll see. I mean, otherwise I'd like to walk through there. I planted, can you see all that? I planted my squash and my zucchini and yellow squash right down through here. Now it turns out that area back there will also get the evening sun. So that's actually that could be this area back in here could actually be a really nice garden area. But I had these squash and they're starting to get big and stunted, and I needed to get them in the ground, I felt. And so even though I wasn't really ready to plant them, because, you know, I was thinking about tilling a second time and then putting down the leaf mulch and the wood mulch and then planting, well, I didn't do it that way. I just came out and planted them. So, and I did plant one pumpkin so far. Now I'm a little bit scared of the pumpkins, but over there, because the pumpkins, when they start to grow, will grow from there all the way over into the middle of my yard. I mean, the pumpkins really spread out. But there's another butternut squash. You see how I covered that in? I wasn't able really to till in that area, so it's a little bit of a land bridge there. A butternut, and then there's a zucchini back there also. So this area hasn't been planted really very much, so I still got a big area there to plant. And this area can be planted. This gets the evening sun. Of course, when I take out those bushes, you see those bushes, it'll even get more sun. So, and those peach trees I'm thinking about trying to plant back in there when I get this cleaned up. That is, if my neighbor wants them. I think she will. So that's my strategy, is grow those, the ones I don't give away, is maybe have a little fruit orchard in there. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this update. It takes a bit to go through everything, so this is a bit longer than what I thought it might be, but anyway, you can always hop through the sections you don't, or skip stuff, of course. But I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, love you guys. Bye-bye now.